Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert, along with my dear good friend, Father Joe Grimaldi. And on today's podcast, we are going to get you ready for the season of Advent. Don't look now, friends, but Christmas is less than a month away. The Father Joe Grimaldi podcast, proudly supported by Hoot and McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. Hoot believe that true luxury should play a bigger role in your life, not just behind the wheel of your vehicle, but also about and out in the world. Should make your life more effortless, preserving your time and energy for what matters most, like your family, your church. To accomplish this, Star Lincoln is committed to the owner experiences designed to do just that very thing. That's the Star Lincoln way. Look, there's no greater luxury than our time, and Lincoln provides us with an effortless way to service our Lincoln. Just schedule a time and place convenient to you, and they'll bring you a loaner vehicle when we pick up yours. Stop on by Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln and check out the new Navigator, the Aviator, the Corsair, Nautilus, and of course the Lincoln MKZ and the Lincoln Continental. Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. It's the home of the Star treatment. Certainly seems to be a festive season, lots of hustle and bustle and so much to do in such a little bit of time. You're aware of the fact that this Sunday is the first day of Advent. Advent is a season of expectant waiting and preparation for the celebration of the Nativity of Jesus at Christmas. But wait a minute, wait. Are we putting more importance on the mall than we are to Advent? Well, here's Father Joe to help me work it out. Father Grimaldi, I remember as a kid that our family had an Advent wreath with, I believe, 4 candles. Now, we also had a Christmas tree because we were getting excited about, the Christmas holiday. I was an altar boy, as we called it back then. And I remember that prior to the Christmas Mass, the church and the altar seemed almost simplistic, stark, if you will. And I notice that still today. Would I be wrong to say that, for example, the mall looks a lot more like Christmas than the Catholic Church?
No, I think you're correct. The thing is this, though. It is not a penitential season. It's a season of anticipation. And it's interesting that people associate it with Lent because we wear the color purple. But by the same token, it's more anticipatory to the birth of the Lord, so the nativity that we're all looking forward to. And basically, Advent is a time when people, how should I put it easiest? They get excited about Christmas is coming. The Lord is coming. Now, there are questions that I have, the differences between culture and religion. And I think what I see happening in the United States, but I think elsewhere as well, is that the two are getting mixed up.
I wanted to ask you about the division of the commercial side versus the spiritual side. Do people ask you about that?
Unfortunately, they don't. They fit into the culture, as part of the culture.
So the kid that wants to see Santa Claus more than celebrate the birth of Christ.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Culturally, that's taken over. And so much so, there were questions, depending on what part of the country you come from, as to whether or not it was appropriate to say Merry Christmas to people. You really have to stay close to Happy Holidays or whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting that the whole idea of Christmas seems to be fading, particularly because of the stronghold, I think, of the cultural aspect of Christmas. Basically, to a lot of people, means lots of gifts, lots of dinners, beautiful carols in the background. The tree goes up and people are singing and merry and so on.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that.
All right.
But the thing is this.
Don't they, somewhere in the back of their minds, remember the purpose or at least think about it?
That's what I question. The other fades out. And basically, it's the winter solstice, so we this is what we're celebrating, just like in ancient days, okay? They don't specifically say that, but you know what I mean.
I do.
We're celebrating something that we need because winter is dull, and you need something. Now, one of the things that I want to go back to Advent, we all recognize that the 24th or 25th is the shortest day of the year.
Of the year, yeah. I believe it's the 21st, actually.
So you start to begin to see light again.
Right.
In the beginning, of course, it's slow coming, but then it is. So that, to me, makes Advent a season of hope, because it's all of a sudden now we're beginning to see that there is some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
It's not going to be the doldrums of the winter getting us down, and people staying within their homes and so on and so forth. But anyway, so maybe I'm jumping back and forth.
No, you're doing a beautiful job. I'm following it perfectly.
Yeah, but I think the cultural aspect is taking over. I don't know how many more years it's going to happen that we still remember Christ to an extent. Of course, we're not fundamentalists either. That's another thing, too.
Right.
The fundamentalists would make sure that, Christ would be the main event. But what happens is, even though it is still the purpose, it's overshadowed by the gala parties that are had throughout town, throughout the various societies and so on and so forth. And parties have nothing to do with Christ, but go ahead.
Is that your job then as a priest to say, but let us not forget that we are celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ?
Exactly. But the thing is this, we go a step further, because Advent is the preparation for Christmas Day, when Christ came for the first time and walked the same earth that you and I walk. However, it's also a preparation for ourselves to get ourselves ready to meet Christ when he comes again. Because we believe in what's called the Parasya, the second coming of Jesus Christ. And so Advent is a time, yes, we prepare ourselves to open our hearts so that the Lord could come into the heart. And beautifully said, it's nice and so on. But even more deeply, we prepare ourselves for the coming of the Lord, when we will meet him on, whether it be my last day or the Lord's last day when he comes on earth. And when he questions us, what have you done with your life? So we prepare ourselves during Advent. Advent is a time when most of the churches have set aside a lot of time for confessions. And again, that's part of it, to prepare ourselves for the coming of Jesus, but also for the second coming as well.
The second coming of Christ. If I may ask, how do you imagine that? Is it an event? That one confuses me.
Well, a lot of people are. We all are. I mean, in a sense that we don't know exactly what that means. We speak about the end times. We speak about the end of the world. We speak about the last judgment, when he comes to judge the living and the dead. What does that event look like? Is it over a period of time, or is it
part of the mystery?
Oh, it is part of the mystery. There's no question.
All right.
Yeah.
Part two, do you feel it's tougher than ever to get the message out on how important it is for us to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ?
Let me put it this way. It is tough. I don't know if it's tougher than ever, but basically what I'm thinking is that the culture is so strong, and it's very strong, that it undermines, for example, evidence of that would be fewer and fewer people going to church. Fewer and fewer people, even during the holidays, where you get a lot more people coming, but a lot less coming, this time.
Right.
So you see the number of people dwindling because they have to spend more time going to prepare for the special turkey dinner or ham or whatever the case might be. And who are we going to invite? It's almost as if the celebration takes over and undermines the reason for the celebration. It's like very often, and I've spoken about this before, with brides who prepare for the wedding and not for the marriage. Huh? So in other words, that takes over basically the place, the food, the music, all of that. There's nothing wrong with those things, by the way. I think these things need to be celebrated because it's part of our human nature to want to celebrate these good things. But by the same token, when they take over so much that the other just starts to disappear, then what are we doing? We have to question ourselves.
Children think of Santa Claus first, obviously. And isn't that fair?
I don't know about fair, but it's natural. But this is where the 4 o'clock Mass, I'll say the 4 o'clock Mass, the afternoon Mass for the children, hopefully takes over where they enact the birth of Christ, the child, Jesus is presented. And so maybe some of these children will make a connection. As I said before, there's nothing wrong with celebration. Now, you brought up something like gift giving. We live in a prosperous time, okay?
Yeah.
In many ways. And thank God, it's good. But by the same token, some people foolishly will, in my mind anyway, I hate to use the word spoil the kids with thousands of gifts that they don't even know what they received. Huh? Mm-hmm. They just are. Did you ever walk into a room where there were little kids on Christmas morning? I mean,
yeah.
There's boxes and wrapping paper and this being up in the ceiling. Some are being taken down from the tree and so on. So it's interesting to see all of that. But by the same token, isn't it a little too much? They don't even know what they got. You ask them, what did you get for Christmas? Well, they pick out one or two things that
right.
They did get. I think what's happened is parents who particularly have suffered even a little bit when they were growing up then want to make up for it when they have their own children by making sure that these kids lack nothing. Well, they'll still lack nothing if you get them the appropriate gifts, and I don't know what the appropriate number is either. I mean, I'm not versed in that at all, but I do know this, that what's happening now in many families, kids get anywhere between 20 to 40 gifts of toys, and they don't know what they're doing with them. They have no idea, because after they've opened 1, 2, 3, they forgot what they got.
What's in the bigger box.
So, it's interesting. But anyway, so I think that has to be curbed a little bit. I'm not trying to reform society.
But do you talk to that at the pulpit? As Father Joe Grimaldi asked the Vada, look, you're getting your kids 15, 20, 25, 30 gifts. Enough is enough. But is that your responsibility to stand in front of a congregation going, in front of these beautiful children going, you can't do that?
In a way you can. It depends on how you structure what you say.
See, that's why I like you, because of the way you handle it so well, and I don't.
It's not my job to tell them that, but it is my job to say that excess does not help anybody, because you have to really structure what you have to say. And I've done it, but I mean, you structure it so that it becomes part of the message that you're giving on a particular day. Now, you don't want to do it on Christmas Day. Christmas Day is a day when...
Well, let's celebrate, Yeah,
let's celebrate, and we thank God for all of us being here, and we thank God for our health, and enjoy the day, and so on and so forth. However, Advent would be a good time, because Advent is when you want to practice the virtues that we want to really bring across to the kids. And so, there's ways of doing it without pointing at people and telling them, this is what you have to do. Well,
there was a time, though, that priests did that,
Yeah, but a lot of people just ran away. They didn't, I don't think they bought that. They bought it superficially, but not interiorly.
Is it your happiest time of the year as a priest, as a person? Do you enjoy it?
Yes, I do enjoy it, particularly because it's a time when people are smiling, when people are happy. The most important celebration for the church is Easter, of course, but it's interesting that Christmas has all the bells and whistles attached to it. So that, for example, as you go through the malls, you have those melodious carols. They can't help but get to, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then the smells of Grandma's coffee cake and the smells of the various other treats that you get at Christmas time. See the children jumping up and down so they could see Santa and things of this sort. Those are happy days, happy times. Huh? But Easter is also happy, more important, but also happy. I always get a big kick out of, we always hear the Alleluia chorus at this time of the year, over and over and over again.
Right.
And yet Handel wrote it for Easter, not for Christmas. And so,
what's the one thing you wish Christmas, your message in a simple form, would be?
I'm not being Pollyannish or anything like this, but I think if everybody could take seriously to address peace starting in your own heart. Sometimes we're just messed up.
Mm-hmm.
We have to work on that. Peace within the family. Peace that starts here. Peace that starts within the family. Peace that starts with the neighbors. The neighbor that's a bothersome individual that you really can't stand, but at least you have the courage to say good morning or how are you. And if that could really catch on and find peace in our cities so that violence wouldn't be emphasized. I just think violence even within families, people shooting one another by mistake. I won't even get into the debate of guns and so on, but you know what I'm saying. It's so peace here, peace with our families, peace in our cities, peace in our country, and eventually, peace in the world. That to me would be the most beautiful message that we can give at Christmas time. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.